Jason Smith. Um, I've been going here to this church since I was a little kid. Um, I got into the message probably when I was 7, 8 years old. Yeah, I was raised in a good home, good family. My mom and dad always taught me about God and taught me about His love, and we had a good family, good upbringing. Come to church every weekend. It was nice. You know. I'd probably say nothing. I was probably good up until I was about a teenager. I kind of started hanging around with the wrong people, playing sports. I wanted to be cool. Got with the wrong friends. My parents was always trying to steer me away from this person and that person, and I was just headstrong and wanted to go right for it. And it just started out cigarettes at my first job. Smoking a cigarette out back, and that was like, oh man, this is fun. I thought, and God would deal with me and like, hey, this ain't right, but it didn't matter. I was still, like I said, I just felt like when I grew up, I had a lot of rules. My house was strict. My parents were good parents, but they were strict. And once I started getting a little taste of freedom and working and all that kind of stuff, it just I let it consume me, and I just ran with it. So I'd probably say 16 is when I started getting high at work. I work with my friends. As a matter of fact, I come into the break room, and they were rolling a joint in the break room, and they were like, "Yeah, you never smoked weed before?" And I was like, "Yeah, I've done that before, and I'd never smoked weed before." And I didn't even know what weed was. I asked them what they was doing. I thought they was rolling a cigarette, and they were kind of poking fun at me and stuff like that. And so I was like, "Well, yeah, I've smoked before. Come on, let's go out back and smoke." And it's the worst decision I ever made. That's what started. So it started it all right there. So went out back. We got stoned, and once that happened, started getting real rebellious with my mom and dad. Started not going to school. Then I completely dropped out. I think when I was 17. Got into a little bit of trouble. Then I got put on probation. Well, then of course you have to take drug tests on probation. So then my buddies were like, "Hey, there's other drugs that you can do that's it's not so bad that you can get high off this stuff, and 5 days you can pass a P test and you'll be good to go." So started doing that, which was pills. I started messing with pills, cocaine, stuff like that. Then that's my mom and dad. They kicked me out the house. They said, matter of fact, my dad, I won't never forget it. I used to hide stuff all in my room, contraband and stuff. And my mom was like a hound dog. She could sniff it out wherever I put it. I'd put it in, wrapped up in socks, and stick it in like a jacket pocket in my winter clothes, and somehow she would find it. I even stuck a bowl one time in a tree out in my yard, and my dad found that. And he was like, "Look, this is enough. We got your sister to worry about. You got to go." And so I was like, "All right, I can make it. I'm a grown man." So off on my own I went, and then of course, you get out there with all those other people. I didn't really have no place to go. I thought I did until, you start staying on somebody's couch for a week or two, and then it's like, oh, you can't stay here. So then you're bouncing from place to place to place, and then you're meeting more wrong people, and so that went on for about a year, and then got smoking crack, and got on that really bad. And then my grandparents stepped in. They were like, "Look, come stay with us. We'll get you straightened out, and then you can move over to the mountain." And at this time, I hadn't been to church in probably 2 years, probably up to 17, 18. I was about 19 at that time. So I moved in with my grandparents, had a job, was working, doing good. I moved over here and started going back to church. And I was doing pretty good. I still wasn't, saved or anything like that. I was just, going to church to pretty much appease everybody. Make everybody happy, my family, show them like, hey, he's doing all right. So I moved over here, got to hanging out with the wrong people again. And didn't take long, probably 2 months, 3 months after I was over here, I was out of church again. Then I got introduced to meth. So then did that for several years. Went through probably 15, 20 jobs, couldn't hold down a job. I kept a place to live, but it was, then got into selling the drugs. That's where it got really bad. And then you sell a lot of drugs, get a lot of money, you got a lot of friends, until the drugs runs out. And so eventually, I got so strung out that I couldn't even sell the drugs because I was doing them all, and lost my place to live. And about that time, the woman that I was with, she was pregnant with my second child, Brooklyn. And like I said, we didn't really have no place to go. I wasn't really being a good father, so some stuff happened, and I ended up moving to South Carolina, and thought that, hey, maybe if I get down here, I can get away from all these problems and get my life straightened out that way. Not knowing that all I had to do was just turn to God, but just kept running, trying to get away, trying to fix it myself. So I was down there for a little while, and then alcohol found me down there. So, the bars and the clubs, and I got to drinking real heavily, lost everything again. Got down there, I had a good job, I was doing roofing, making good money. And then, lost my job, lost my place, I was homeless again. Then got in contact with my mom and moved back up here. And what I hadn't realized when I come back up here, that I'd actually had a distribution charge for marijuana. They were looking for me, but I was in South Carolina, so they couldn't find me. When I got back up here, I got with another girl, got into some trouble, the cops showed up. Well, I had a warrant for my arrest for distribution of drugs. I think that was in like 2011, maybe. Put me on probation again. So I went through that. Then instead of pills this time, I got on heroin. I was like, well, pills, that's no fun. We'll try heroin this time. And we were doing that, and I was selling that, and well, I was on probation too. So I caught a couple more charges while on probation. And then that's what started the prison sentences. So in 2013, I was intravenously using heroin and methamphetamines on a regular basis. Quite a bit of it, actually. And so I started my first prison sentence. I think they gave me 3.5 years. So I did the prison time. Then I was supposed to go to Mine Shaft, I believe. Well, I got out, I go to Mine Shaft. I get in trouble at Mine Shaft for drinking. Still hadn't learned. Still using heroin and meth, still going crazy. Then they gave me 4 years or 5 years, something like that. And so then my kids were growing up. I had, at that time, I think my daughter was 7, my son was 3, and then I had an older daughter that was 10. Those ages are approximate. So I started like a 5-year sentence then. Get to prison. I still couldn't behave myself. I was still getting high in prison. It was just one thing after another thing after another thing. And, just sad. It was a sad life, just miserable, In these stints of time, I'd contemplated, suicide, killing myself, like just being done with all of it. I blamed everybody. I blamed my parents. I blamed just anybody you could think to blame. I blamed them. My friends, the police, it's everybody's fault but my own, for real. And but it wasn't. Then my wife now, Melissa, she reached out to me when I had like 2 years left to go, and she was telling me a little bit about how she was doing in life, and I hadn't heard from her since my grandparents had taken me in and moved me over the mountain here as a teenager. And during that time, she had gotten pregnant, and the girl that she had was Karma, which turned out to be my daughter. And so she was telling me pretty much that, hey, you've got another child out here. How are you doing? Well, I was like, of course, wasn't completely honest. I was like, yeah, I'm doing great. I was like, got a couple more years left to go, 1.5 years left to go. How are you doing? And we corresponded a little bit. She sent me some pictures. Then one night I realized I was laying in my bunk, and the place I was at was pretty wild. It was drugs everywhere, and it was like a big party after the lights went out. that's all everybody did was get high. So I mean, it's all everybody was doing. I mean, the whole pod was smoking chicken, which is like synthetic weed, and they were, doing coke, and I just broke out in tears. I was like, this is a miserable life. I can't keep doing this. You just gotta help me. God help me. And He did. I think it was that morning I wrote a letter to Brother Ron, and got to talk to him, and just was I didn't really know what to say. I don't even honestly remember the letter that I wrote him. Really, it was just kind of like, hey, how you doing? I need you to pray for me, I guess. Having a rough time. And like I said, I was still smoking that synthetic stuff. We were taking Suboxone strips. Like, it wasn't supposed to be in prison. You're doing better, and I wasn't. So, and he wrote me back, and he was like, you just need to read. I still got the letter in my Bible, actually. He said, he sent me some scriptures. He said, you need to read your Bible and pray. So I have to think, well, that's exactly what I'm going to do. So I lived in a dormitory at that time. It was like 85, 86 people in this big dorm. And I'll never forget, the first morning I woke up, I was like, how am I going to pray in front of all these people? I was like, but I look around and there's some Muslim people, and they're getting on their mats and they're praying. I was like, well, if they can do that, I can get on my knees and I can pray too. So I got on my knees right there by my bunk. I prayed, I read my Bible, and there's some people laughing, making fun, but it didn't matter. I got up, I felt better, and I was like, if I can get through today and not get high, it'll be a good day. And I made it that day. And I think I made it maybe a week, then got high again. And I was like, well, next time I'll make it 2 weeks. God, you gotta help me. I can't do this. And the whole time I was, writing Brother Ron, he was writing me back. I had to support all my family, my wife, my kids. And it just kept building, one victory on top of another victory on top of another victory. And it was a real blessing. And about a year went by, and I was getting close to my release date. And I was getting real nervous. Like, I was like, man, this is gonna be awful. I said, God, you need to like move. You need to do something, because I'm getting ready to go back out here on the streets. And I don't know, like, it was different in there because it was a controlled environment. And if you wanted to stay away from it, you kind of could. But I just felt like it'd be different out here. I was like, man, I've done built all these people up, that I'm going to do good, and it's not going to be the same. And, I just didn't want to bring everybody down or even be a reproach to God, for not seeing it through, so to speak. And so, we had these meetings in our thing. It was like everybody had to come up, and there was just classes we had to take. And I was like the pod coordinator at that time, because I had been in there for quite a while. And it was getting ready to be time for our meeting. And there's not a lot of church stuff in there. So the only thing I could watch was like preaching on the TV. So I would like religiously watch that and read my Bible. I probably wouldn't watch those guys now, but that's all I had at the time. So, I was hungry. So, I'm reading my Bible, and I'm praying, and I'm watching TBN, I think it was. And, it's just like, all of a sudden God just started speaking through me through the passage that I was reading. But as I was reading it, I just started bawling like a baby. Like, he pretty much, the way the scripture read, it was like, I think it reads like, he turns your back on you for a moment, but, it pretty much, I'm trying to think of how it went now, but he pretty much told me my kids would come to know his love, that everything that I lost would be restored. I think there's the no weapon formed against you shall prosper is in that chapter. Just everything, that he would just restore everything that I'd lost. And I mean, it wasn't like I was reading it. It was like it was said directly to me. And I mean, I cried and cried, and people were like looking at me, like they were coming up like, are you all right, man? We got a meeting coming up. And I was like, I ain't worried about that meeting. I'm right here right now. I'm having a meeting, and it's funny because, fast forward a little bit, I get out, pretty much as soon as I got out, my now wife, Melissa, we've been together since I come home. And when I got out, I didn't have a license. I didn't have a car. I didn't have a job. I didn't have nothing. you know. I lived at my mom and dad's at 30, it was 35 years old, I think, when I got out. Didn't have nothing. And so, and I was about $20,000 in debt too. Court fines and restitutions and all that kind of good stuff. So, you know, the week after I got home, my mom and dad were like, well, we know a guy, he needs a tree climber. You want to help him? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. So I got a job, and then started paying all my debt off and stuff. And I was like, man, this is, you know, and I always went back to that chapter in Isaiah that I read. I was like, you know, I'd read it almost every night. Like, he told me that this was going to be my life. So we're going to see. And at first it felt like that it was taking forever. Like, my credit card debt was exponential, my court fines exponential, back child support exponential, like everything was like, and my mom would just tell me, just have patience, it'll be okay. If God told you, he's gonna do it. And I was like, you know what, you're right. And then, of course, all the time, Brother Ron's preaching, you know, Brother Andrew, the same thing, you know, just keep having faith. He said it, believe it. So I just kept holding on to it, like, this is what you told me, this is what it's gonna be. So, about in March, I got out in November 20th of 2020 is when I come home. In March, I got my license of the next year. My grandma gave me a car. She gave me the Griswold family vacation, the station wagon thing. So that's what she gave me. And I was so thankful. It was the coolest car ever. but it was. And so I got that, and then I was like, I'm gonna start a tree business. And my wife looked at me and she was like, you're crazy. She said, you can start a tree business in a car? I was like, look, God promised me that I have a business and that it would be super, you know, successful, and that I'd not want for anything. That's what he promised me. And she was like, all right, go at it. So I had a couple roofing jobs that I had to do. I did those roofing jobs out of that car, and I got enough money to buy me a dump truck. Got the dump truck, and then she was like, well, now you gotta go find tree jobs. I didn't have a tree job. I didn't have a job or nothing. I just had a dream, you know, and a promise. And so I went right down the road from where I lived at, and talked to a guy, and I got my first job. I did that, then just took off from there. And he's really blessed me. It's unbelievable. I shared that passage with my wife right after we got married. All I had was a dump truck. You know, and I was like, you know, I'm going to have this, and this one day, and God promised me I was going to have that and that. And she just kind of looked at me and she was like, okay, good night. You know, I mean, I know she, not, you know, she believed me, you know, but it was wild, like just the way I explained it to her, and you know, the way God had, you know, put it on my heart that it was going to be. And then you fast forward here, you know, 4 more years. I'm going on 4 years here in a couple of days that I've been home, and it's unbelievable what God has done in our life. We have a home. I have custody of my children, which I had lost custody of all my kids. So I have custody of my kids now. I have a home. I have more vehicles now than I've ever had in my whole entire life. I've got equipment to go with it. And I'm happy. Most of all, I'm happy. And I've got my family. And it's just amazing, you know, what God has done, and what I know that he's still got in store for me. So it's not even like it's kind of crazy. He's told me the destination. Like, I understand where I'm going to get. So that part I'm not even worried about anymore. But it's the little small, it's the journey now. That means the most, and the memories that I'm making with my kids and my family, and just knowing I can wake up and say I'm clean. I'm not addicted to some needle or some crack pipe or a bottle, or, you know, not saying that I still don't think, and that was fun, or, you know, the devil always tries to bring back those little memories, like, you know, you can go do that. It's not going to hurt you any one time, or, you know, this or that. And, you know, sometimes you get right there on the edge with life and with circumstances, but just got to pray and just say, God, you just got to help me. You know, I can't go back to that. So
she used to have an expression: birds of a feather flock together. You don't see buzzards and doves feeding together. One's a scavenger. And the dove couldn't eat the buzzard's food because he don't have any gall. He couldn't digest it. And you don't see believers and unbelievers together unless there's some kind of a purpose for it. There's something wrong.
A year, maybe even 2 years, you might be able to go, and you might be able to be their designated driver or whatever have you. But eventually, they're going to get you. You know what I'm saying? That it's going to sneak up. You're going to have maybe an argument with your significant other, or going through something with one of your kids, or had a fight at work, or maybe got fired, and a moment of weakness, and if you're around the wrong individual, it'll suck you right back down into that stuff. And I mean, and that's how a lot of I would get clean, and then I'd get sucked back in. And I'd get clean, and then get sucked back in, and that's what it'd always be. It'd be like something with a family member, a girlfriend, something like that, a bad day at work, and then you just be like, oh, just this one time, I'll be all right. I'll get back on track, and the tracks never seem to come back under you, you know. And so, that's where God comes in. You know, if you got Him in your life, even though you have those moments of weakness and you have those thoughts and those temptations, you just help me. You gotta help me right now, or something bad's gonna happen. You know, I talk to Him sometimes, like, you gotta do something right now, you know, and He does. He comes, He moves, He makes a way. I always had this complex that I wanted to be liked, and I wanted to be cool, and you know, I want to be everybody's friend. I'm just a talkative individual. I like to, you know, and you know, honestly, I would do things in detriment to myself sometimes to even help other people, or to, you know, just to fit in. And you know, now I realize that honestly, the cool people don't fit in, really. Like, it's really a whole lot better. And that's what I tell my kids all the time. Like, if you got to feel like you got to have a $200 pair of breeches, or a $100 pair of shoes, or whatever have you, you know, for somebody to think that you're relevant, those people aren't relevant. Like, you don't need that stuff, and you don't need their, you don't need them to think that you're relevant, because honestly, you're probably not even going to know them in 10 years. And in 10 years, where are they going to be, you know, compared to where maybe you might be? Or, you know, it's just, or how do you know that their family isn't extremely in debt to provide that for them? What kind of lifestyle is that? So, yeah, peer pressure is a horrible thing, and you know, people bullying you into doing things, and it's but yeah, that's what I can say honestly. That's what, just trying to be cool, you know. And I used to honestly sometimes think, like, when I come to church with my family, I'd be like, man, I don't want to see how people can shout and do all that kind of stuff. I feel like that's, at the time, I thought that was kind of a little embarrassing. Like, oh man, you know, there they go again. But now, you know, it's something I pray for. I'm like, when am I going to get to do that? You know, when, you know, now I could care less about what people think about what I wear, what I drive, what I do. You know, like I tell my kids, it's about your family and, you know, the people that want to see you succeed, what they think. If somebody really loves you or cares about you, they're not going to care what car you drive, what clothes you wear, and they're not going to talk you into doing something that is going to that could take your life, you know, because I should be dead. You know, when I went to prison, it's funny because, like I said, I was intravenously using meth and heroin at the same time. I was doing speed shots, speedballing, and, you know, that was right before fentanyl hit. And I was going up and getting, you know, ounces and ounces of heroin at the time from the city and coming back. And it's just God's grace that I got caught. Like, I hated the people that told on me for a while, and now it's like, I'm so happy that they turned me in, because actually the people that turned me in are actually not here anymore. They turned me in. I did their time. While I was doing their time, they OD'd on the fentanyl. So, I mean, you don't know what you're getting anymore. You don't know if it's a good drug or, they're all bad drugs, but should I say a safer drug or a deadly drug, you know? And now looking, I was mad at God for a long time, because I was like, I can't believe I'm locked in a cage like an animal. But that's where He had to put me to, you know, to get me to this point. So I thank Him every day. It might sound crazy, but I sometimes when I'm praying in the morning, I'm like, I thank You for that. I thank You for sending me to prison. I thank You for, and it's wild too, because like all the stuff that I went through in my life has kind of, and even the prison stuff, and you know, even being that pod coordinator thing like I was talking about, it all like was training me for where I'm at right now, with running a business, with being a parent, with dealing with just life. Like, if I hadn't have walked the path that I walked, you know, I wouldn't be able to, the things that I've been blessed with, I think they would have consumed me already, maybe. So it's been, you know, I wouldn't wish that on anybody, but I appreciate it now when I look back on it. It was a blessing, even all that stuff. I will say this, yeah, the biggest thing for me, it doesn't matter where you're at, if you're in a prison cell, if you're in your car, you live at home by yourself, if you want change in your life, what did it for me and what I know can do it for anybody. I changed my people and my places. But honestly, I got on my knees every morning and I prayed. I tried to spend 20 minutes reading my Bible, and I changed the music I was listening to. I just did those three things to start it off. And I was like, look, I'm going to do this, and you take it from there. And when you start to change those things, like I put him first. That was the first thing I did before I did anything. Before I even went to use the bathroom, brush my teeth, did anything. I prayed, tried to read my Bible, and just tried to listen to music that was more becoming. Because whatever you take in or even watch on television, I even I did change what I watched on TV, you know. And you take in what you're seeing and what you're hearing, a lot of times that, for me, it would, like if I'd listen to bad music, it get you amped up, you know. You listen to music about drinking or, you know, all different things, you know, or fighting or, you know, you make sure you get you in that spirit, you know. So you got to break that spirit. You kind of got to, you can't let it in through here and through here. You know, so if you can stop it in those two, if you can stop the assault from those two spots and then read your Bible and pray, I mean, I think that's a recipe right there for success, and give it to God and he'll take care of the rest of it. So that would be my advice to anybody that's struggling, that, you know, just start right there. That's where I started. I mean, and it worked for me. So
somebody told me he had one time, was converted, received the Holy Ghost, and he said to him, how you get along? He said, pretty good and pretty bad. He said, well, how do you mean pretty bad and pretty good? He said, well, since me received the Holy Ghost, he said, there's been two dogs in me. And one of them a black dog, one of them a white dog. He said, they argue all the time. He said, they growl and fight at one another. And said, the white dog wants me to do good, the black dog wants me to do bad. He said, well, Chief, which one of them wins the fight? He said, that depends on which one Chief feeds the most. So I think that's a good answer here. See, there just depends on the warring of the body that's in you. It depends on which one you cater to, which nature you cater to. The carnal nature after the things of the world, or the spiritual nature after the things of God.
Because my dad used to tell me that story all the time. And I used to just be like, man, it's story time again. You know, I just brush it off like I'm going to hear this stuff, you know. But now I look back, he's one of the smartest men I know, you know. At the time I was like, man, you know, and he would always talk in like parables and, you know, say little things. And I was like, man, when is this going to end? You know, but that's something else I can suggest too, that, you know, if you really know somebody loves you, listen to what they're trying to tell you, because they only want the best for you. So.